Hi guys, welcome to AFTV, the Invincible podcast. I have been subbed in an 82nd minute instead of Robbie, who is sunning himself in Cannes. So please make sure you follow AFTV. Please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you comment. Please make sure you like the video and across all podcast platforms. So today, the man needs no introduction. He was there from Highbury. He's here at the Emirates. The man that brings the gavel down. Lee, the judge, judges.
That's it now, Robbie, you're sacked. That is it, you're finished. Finito. Has he got a gig to France, south of France, by the way, in the Cecil again? I think they're lovers myself. What do you reckon?
How comes we didn't get invited, Lee?
I never get anything like that.
No.
You know? I mean, he's off there sunning himself. I see him drinking, having the life. The pair of them like a married couple they are like. But I don't want to put out rumours. You know?
I know. I did see on Robbie's Instagram that he was getting Cecil on the Don Julio. So big up Robbie and Cecil, and thank you very much for having me.
And just before we start, like, it's great that we're on time. You
yes.
know what I mean, like both of us here when we was meant to be, starting on time. Not waiting around. Did you traffic all right this morning?
Yeah, traffic was fine, to be honest. I mean, I left in good time. And
funny, eh? I mean, like there only seems to be traffic delays when Robbie's about. Like, you know what I mean? Everybody else here on time. Ryan here on time. Well done, Ryan. Joe's on holiday at the moment. So yeah.
I've got to be careful here. I don't want to get sacked before I've even been hired. So
don't worry about it. Like, you know what I mean? He's too busy sunning it up in France, south of France as well. I'm going to be honest. Cannes. I am a little bit jealous of that.
I see him there with Righty as well.
Yeah, I see him on the old, marina the other day. Like, was it yesterday?
Yeah.
You know, I never get invited to nothing like that. It's always Cecil.
Lee, there's always time. There's always time. I have faith this time next year.
I don't really want to go. A couple of boring old sods anyway.
So, guys, we have got an absolutely awesome show packed full of mainly the fixtures got released yesterday morning, Wednesday, the 18th of June. And myself and Mr. Judges are going to be going through them. Some have said Arsenal have got a tough start. We're going to be going through some Invincible stuff. First and foremost, we are going to pay a bit of homage to an Arsenal legend who, it was a year, his anniversary of his passing,
on Sunday,
Mr. Kevin Campbell. And, for me, one of the most poignant memories that I had of Kevin Campbell, when I was a kid, the 1990-91 season, I had the VHS cassette of that whole season, and it was one of my favourite treasured possession as a 9-year-old at the time, or 10-year-old. And I remember Kevin Campbell on that in training with Ian Wright, and the ball got played over his shoulder, and he hits it on the volley, and he beat David Seaman, and this must have been from about 35 yards. And David Seaman weren't exactly the easiest keeper to beat. Let's have it right. And I remember that. And Kevin Campbell, what an amazing character, an amazing striker, player, footballer, man. And obviously, Lee, I know you knew him personally, and maybe you'd like to say a few words.
Yeah, it's just like, I can't believe it's a year, to be honest, and I miss him terribly. We had a great friendship, and miss those times and everything like that. And but it is a year. But what was great about it, seeing all the stuff and everything like that, is that just how nice a guy he was, and that seems to be coming over now. Do you know what I mean? Like everybody, which is sad when someone dies, that everybody sort of talks about all that stuff. But all the people, I see it on social media, all the former footballers, whether they play forever in Arsenal or not, all saying what a lovely guy he was, and he was, you know what I mean? That was the best thing for me with Kevin, is wherever we went, he was just such a love. Anybody that come up to him, how you doing? You're all right. And a lot of the things that I am like, you know what I mean? I even though he was a little bit younger than me, I sort of like, he'd been a big influence, you know what I mean? Like that's what I miss sometimes, you got a little bit of a bad time or whatever. he'd always be on the phone and giving you a bit of advice, whatever, like, you know. So, yeah, you know, and a tremendous player for Arsenal, of course, and Everton, like, you know. So, you know, obviously with Goodison Park and everything. That was the worst thing for me over the year. Was when they was like the last game at Goodison Park. He would have been there, been on the pit, you know what I mean, and everything like that. And he wasn't there. So when I was seeing those celebrations of Goodison Park, that really got to me that day, like, you know.
I saw that, Lee, and I saw obviously all the ex-players, and you're completely right. There's two questions that I want to ask you about Kevin Campbell, and these are personal questions that I want to know. So, first one, how did you get to meet him and become friends with him?
Right. Like the first how that happened was that we'd been like on social media, Twitter, like, or X, and I was going to play. I was never forget. I was going to play a game of football like in the vets team, like, and I got a message come through, like, you know, DM saying, "Look, I'm at the game today. Do you want to meet up?" And so that was it. Like, I said, yeah, you know what I mean. So we met up after.
No, I'm busy today, mate.
Like, if I'm not going to do that, and so we met up. And we went out for a drink and everything like that. But the poignant thing about that is that we went up to Finsbury Park. So we said, "Oh, should we walk up to Finsbury Park or should we get the tube?" So we said, "Oh, come, we'll jump on the tube." Like, so we jumped on the tube, and it's only about a minute stop and all that. Like, but anyway, cut a long story short, 3 years after that, like, Kevin said to me, like, I was thinking, I seemed to have, we had this connection straight away, and I just thought I'd only known him 5 minutes, but like, so, and we were sitting there, we was having a drink up in Manchester, it was, because that's where Kevin was living then, and he said, "Do you remember that time we was on the tube?" And like, we was just going from right, so I went, yeah, he goes, "Even though we was on that tube," he goes, "I knew that me and you were going to be like best of mates." And I went, wow, I thought the same as well, like. Wow. And that's and that is a true thing.
Because I think as an Arsenal fan, trying to say that to an ex-Arsenal player in the moment, you're always in the back of your mind going to be thinking, this guy thinks that I'm saying this for either clout or to, you know, because I'm just saying it. But that's
I've never seen that thing. I just felt like, you know,
that must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. And then, like, you know, we just in the end, like, we're just like, Kevin was lived in Manchester, so ever we'd go up to Manchester. I think about 3 or 4 weeks later, Arsenal playing Man United, went together for the game, and it just went from there, like, you know what I mean, like, and it was a special
and then
friendship.
The second question is, I saw a picture of you on Instagram. You're sitting there with Kevin Campbell and Nigel Winterburn, and what I remember about him when I was younger, I remember going to Chelsea with my mum, and I was only young. I think it was the 92 season when we beat them 3-2, and Nigel Winterburn picked up the ball in the 92nd minute. Yeah. He must have been 30 yards out and smashed it into the top corner, winning the game. Obviously, I was in the Chelsea end. But I didn't really at that age understand about, you know, it's something I do now, sit in other ends, but I know how to keep it controlled. But then obviously I've jumped up as I must have been about 12, 13 or something like that, jumped up and my mum was like, sit down, what are you doing? And obviously all the Chelsea fans looked round. It was like they was going to lynch us. It was only my age that got us away with it. But you're standing there with Nigel Winterburn and Kevin Campbell. Is that a moment you just think, I'm standing with two legends in the Arsenal game, like, talk about life goals, right?
Yeah, it's like surreal moments. Like, we was doing a show that day, like, one of the if you ever look, if anybody else wants to look at that photo, Nigel was looking a bit baffled because, you know, I obviously do this thing where we have a drink, half a lager, and I put my finger out. So, like, Kevin's going, "Get the fingers out," and I think Nigel's going, "What's going on here?" Like, you know what I mean? So Nigel's a great guy. Yeah. You know, like, that's one of the things that's unreal about doing what we do. You get to meet the ex-players. But I'll tell you one thing with Kevin. I met a few of the players or ex-players, you know what I mean, like Andy Cole when we was up in Manchester and things like that. As soon as you go into the room, Kevin would turn around and go, "This is my mate Lee," straight away.
Wow.
Straight away, "This is my mate Lee," like, you know what I mean? And it'd make you feel like you was
He probably his mate. You're there with him. Part of. And I love that.
Like it's my mate Lee. Lee, and whenever it was, like, I remember we met Norman Whiteside up there, Man United game, like, and I'm a bit in awe of Norman Whiteside. My era, he was like unbelievable player. And Norman went, hello, Kevin, like, hello, Norman, how you doing? This is my mate Lee, like, you know what I mean? Hello, Norman. And you're straight in then, like, do you know what I mean? So he always done that, like, and Nigel's a top guy. I've known Nigel a little while as well, like, so he's a top guy. So, and to meet all the Arsenal players of that era.
I know, because that era of Arsenal players.
Yeah, when you talk about that 1991 season, I lost one game against Chelsea that season.
Yeah, and do you know why? The only reason why we lost that game?
Stevie Bowl got injured.
No. Tony Adams was in prison for
Tony Adams was in prison. I think Steve Bowl, what I was saying, got injured in that game. We didn't have a centre half. I think David Hillier had to go centre half. Yeah, we lost 1-0.
And we conceded, I believe, it was 17 or 18 goals that season, which is a phenomenal return, in a league campaign. And that season, very similar to what sort of Arteta did, because David Seaman got brought in that season for John Lukage, and John Lukage was a fan favourite, like complete and utter fan favourite. And when we bought Seaman, everyone was up.
Didn't like it. Yeah, everybody was up in arms about it. They were.
Yeah, I mean, Seaman talks about when he was at QPR. The Arsenal fans singing to him, "You'll never play for Arsenal."
Yeah.
And we know how that all ended.
It all ended, and listen, he come in and was unbelievable. We had a lot of things going on that sort of season. We had like obviously the Tony Adams thing and everything like that. I remember going to Anfield. Do you remember Paul Merson scoring that little flick goal? Brilliant season.
That was without a doubt.
If you haven't seen it, go back.
Watch it. We brought in Anders Limpar. We brought in 3 players: Anders Limpar, Andy
Linegan. Man United brawl.
The Old Trafford brawl.
The Old Trafford brawl.
And we won that 1-0.
Yeah, won that 1-0.
Anders Limpar scored.
Yes, from a corner.
Do you know what? We bought in Anders Limpar from
some Swedish. I didn't even know him.
Unknown Swedish player. I think paid 3.1 million for him. And if you watch that, you realise how many games he comes in and just lights it up and changes it.
Yeah.
Started in the pre-season against Aston Villa, and it was the Makita.
Wembley.
We're going back now, aren't we? We're delving into the archives. So anyway, without further ado, we are going to get on to the full 380 game schedule that was dropped yesterday morning, right? The season kicks off on August the 16th, 17th, and it concludes on May the 24th, 2026. So, for the season's fixtures, there's always 3 games that I look for, okay?
All right, go on.
Right, that's the first game of the season, that's Boxing Day, and the last game of the season. First game of the season, you want to know who you're opening, and you hope for a nice, beautiful, sunny day. And then the Boxing Day fixture, I love football over Christmas. It's that time to put your feet up, relax, watch football. Yeah. Then the last game of the season, I always like to think it's where are we going, or if we're winning the title at home. Obviously, it hasn't happened for 20 odd years, but one can only hope. So, Lee, what games do you look for? I
never look for the first. Funny enough, you say the first game. I never look because you know what it's going to be. You know what I mean? Okay. They tell you what that game is like. So I never really go the first. I'm with you. Always look at the Boxing Day one.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean, and Spurs home and away.
Yeah.
Always, that is.
It's a big game.
For me, like them 2 games are the biggest 2 for me. Like, you know what I mean.
Atmosphere was.
Like, like we've got. People will say we're in a title race with Liverpool and Man City, but my first look is to see who we got when we got Arsenal playing Spurs, whether it's home and away first.
Yeah.
Then I look for Liverpool and Man City.
Yeah, because anyone that's watching, if you've been to the Emirates or you've been to, I remember saying that I went to Tottenham away and I sat in the Spurs end last season. We beat them 1-0, and the atmosphere wasn't great. That's the first time I've been to an NLD, and the atmosphere has just not been good. The Spurs fans, they were just sitting around. They just weren't up for it. Weren't up for it at all. But the return fixture at the Emirates, the atmosphere is absolutely electric. Even in seasons when we haven't been doing well and there's been a bad vibe at the Emirates, it's still been bar none.
There's nothing. There's nothing like an Arsenal Spurs game. Like, listen, I've been to every game now at the new stadium at Tottenham, it's nowhere near.
Yeah.
Nowhere near what it was to when it was at White Hart Lane, when it was the old White Hart Lane. That was hostile. The atmosphere, unreal. So they're always special games. For me, it's a lot tougher because family and close friends and relatives are all like Spurs. So that's the game where I don't enjoy the game. Yeah. But that's the one I look forward to. I think it's
just a quick one on that. You're saying about the atmosphere. Do you think, because obviously these stadiums, they're bigger now, and is this something, I just want to touch on it with Everton. Obviously they're moving into Bramley Docks. When we moved into the Emirates, it was like the pockets of fans needed to sort of find each other.
Out. Yeah, you need to get sort out. Yeah,
and move around to get to be vocal, and for the stadium to get breathe life into it. Because now I think, for me, the last few seasons is the first times that the Emirates has really felt like home.
Yeah, I'll tell you what we've and I think that's a great point that you make there, because I see Everton fans now going, I can't wait.
Yeah.
And I'll think or Tottenham fans are saying the same after. You don't know what's coming, because it's not the same.
No, it ain't.
Not the same. Like talking to Everton fans, I say, look, enjoy. The last few games are good. Enjoy it, but because it'll take you, I think, 10 years.
Yeah,
to get used to it.
For me as well, it's like the things. If you look around the Emirates, all the flags that are draped over in certain parts. I don't think everyone turns up in the first game of the new season at Bramley Docks and goes, right, this flag goes here, this flag. I think that stuff is creative. It takes time. It takes time to get that, and to the fans that were together. It's like where I sit at the moment with all the people around. That gets broken up, and everyone gets evenly distributed. The vocal fans that sit together, and like we've got the Ashburton Army. Yeah. Have Everton already got that in place, where their little congregation of ultra fans or whatever are sat all together? Interesting.
It's a great point. I remember going to, when Highbury finished, I was really looking forward to going to the Emirates, and then when I went, it was like a concrete bowl. It was soulless at first. It took me a long time to sort of really enjoy it. So but that was one of the fixtures I looked to, Everton away, because it's a new stadium. Yeah, definitely. So something new to look forward to. That comes in around about Christmas.
So with Saints, Ipswich and Leicester going straight through the trapdoor, upcoming, we've got Sunderland, Burnley and Leeds. How do you think they're going to fare in the Premier League? Not regardless, I suppose, so much of the fixture. I potentially feel for Leeds, they've got us on the second game at our place, and you'd like to think that Arsenal are going to put a real show on there. But how do you think those teams are going to fare in the Premier League this season? Because the Sunderland story for me has been quite an interesting one. They went down from Premier League to League Two, and they've clambered their way back up into the Premier League, and especially how they got through the playoffs. I watched that, and it was quite fantastic. Obviously, they've just having sold Joe Bellingham, and they might struggle without him, but how do you think those teams are going to get on?
I think they'll all struggle. I think there's a big gap now, and it's going to be hard to bridge that gap. As you see with the other three teams last season, didn't even, none of them really made a fist of it, did they? Really? Yeah. If you was to be really honest about it, you would probably say that Leeds might, because of the clout of the club and all that. Sunderland are a big club as well, but Sunderland, I'm a bit biased because I was obviously wanted Sheffield United to win, but I thought
Sheffield, you don't have to make the trip up to Sunderland and to Newcastle.
You know what I mean? Obviously, Kevin's boy plays for Sheffield United, so that was a reason for that. Sheffield, to be obviously Sheffield United or Sunderland, they're still a long way. That was the thing that if you have a look at it, like Leeds, Burnley and Sunderland, like three northern teams coming, and all long distances. You know what I mean? So, it's got more of a northern balance now with them three coming in there. Some big travel. Lots of travelling up north.
So go. Fixtures. Let's get into the Arsenal fixtures. We have got in the first 3 games in August, we have an opener away at Old Trafford against Manchester United. Interesting game for me. And then we've got Leeds and we've got Liverpool away. And I've heard a lot of people in there saying, this is a nightmare start for Arsenal. But the one thing, if I'm honest with you, Lee, I'd look back to last season. So yes, historically, Old Trafford is a tough place to go. We never go there and wipe the floor.
No, we
with
never
Manchester.
play well there. To be honest.
Even in our best seasons when we've won titles, it's always been so tight. But I do look at last season's game when we went to United. We had injury problems. And obviously, we're going to go to Old Trafford in August with a fresh squad. Not just a sort of a bare bones 11, a fresh squad, and
we'd hope so.
I hope, and we hope as well. This number 9, this winger, and this Zubimendi deal done. So last season, I do generally believe we were at Old Trafford. If we had a Gyökeres, a Sesko, or an Osherman, I believe that game's won. Because it was 1-1. We found it hard to break them down. The usual Arsenal sort of problems, as it were. And I believe if those situations are resolved, we go there and get a win. Now, listen, United are strengthening, but I believe that is at least 5 to 10 man reinforcement. And they reinforced the Titanic, but that still went to the bottom of the ocean. And I think United are in for a real hard time, even with the Cunha signing. I think there's a whole mentality, there's a whole issue now to go into that situation quickly. What's going on behind the scenes at that club, what the Glazers have done, the amount of debt that club's in. If Manchester United weren't Manchester United, for me, I think they could be looking at administration. Purely, they're reliant on the name of Manchester United.
Well, I look at that game and I'll go back to us like 5, 6, 10 years ago when we was in that little bit of thing, like.
But was it that bad? Was it that bad?
Well, we weren't as bad as that, but it seems like bad. Liverpool, Manchester City, Chelsea come to us and still come away with the 3 points.
Yeah.
So that's what we've got to look to do in that game there, like, I'm with you on that. Like, Man United have got a lot to do. I'm not. That game doesn't bother me. The next few do after that.
So Leeds at home.
To work, listen, at this moment in time. It's a problem game for us because we find it hard to break teams down. We haven't signed the players that we need to do. If we sign the players we need to do, then I think that wouldn't be a problem. Then there comes this one, like.
And then you've got Liverpool away. So again, Liverpool away, we went. Liverpool had already run last season. Liverpool had already run the title, and we were knocked out of the Champions League and we weren't going to win the league, so we had nothing to play for. We went 2-0 down, and at half time we were 2-0, and it was kind of like nothing's going to happen here. After half time, Martinelli scored a quick goal, and then Marino scored another fantastic equalising goal. Another game, I generally believe that if we had our fit players and we had an informed number 9 that's firing, we win that game.
Yeah, if I look back on that game, you have to say that we just lost to PSG, so it was a tough game. Like, completely different game now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're going to be stronger than what they were last season. They ain't going to be on the beach like they were in that game there. I think that's a difficult game. Anfield's always a difficult game.
Of course it is.
So, of course it is. And then if you come away with something out of that, I'll be pleased.
Then we've got Forest at home, City and Newcastle. City at home,
tough
and then
September.
Newcastle away. Now, the thing with this start, and everyone said, this is a nightmare start, because in the first 6 games you've got Man United, Liverpool, City and Newcastle, and obviously we drew with Forest as well last season. The thing with Forest, you don't know next season what Forest are going to turn up, and that's it. Because the season before,
that is a great call. That's a great call.
They were relegation contenders the season before. Then last season they were in for Champions League. So, but also, if you look at, for me, those first 6 fixtures, if we go and get wins in those games and come out of there 6 out of 6,
well, then you're cooking.
Then it's like, we've just been to Anfield away, Old Trafford away, we've won those games, we've beaten City, we've beaten Newcastle away, then you've got really fancier chances 100% of winning the title.
Yeah, and that game in between Forest and Man City is a Champions League game as well, like, so that'd be interesting from that point of view there. But listen, to get the first 3 away fixtures, Man United, Liverpool and Newcastle, is tough, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Two teams that are in the top 4 last season.
I think they're the hardest away fixtures that you could probably get, potentially.
Yeah, you know what I mean, out of a three, you know what I mean? Like, the champions, Newcastle, you know, we've not done well in there in the last few years. You know, we haven't scored there for a few years as well. So that'd be a very, very difficult game.
And then with October, and this is the bit where also I think it can really change your season, is because you've got West Ham at home, Fulham away and Palace at home. Now, they are the three teams that you look at the fixtures and, you know, maybe as an arrogant Arsenal fan, you think, there you go, 3 points, 3 points, 3 points. It's 9 points in October, job done. But they're the teams that we dropped points against.
Well, all of them last season.
Yeah, all of them.
You lost at home to West Ham, so we lost to West Ham the last 2 seasons.
We battered them at home. We battered them away.
But we've lost. So that's a difficult. That is being an interesting game. Like, for me, Declan Rice has been an absolute wonderful player for us for the 2 years that he's been. He's had 2 poor games for Arsenal. Both at home against West Ham. So he needs to rectify that. And that would be a difficult game for us, that will, like, you know. Fulham away, everybody goes Fulham away. We lost there, we drew there. That's not an easy game. And Palace, of course, got a draw at the back end of last season. So on paper, that looks good. Yeah, obviously, again, a Champions League game would be involved in that. And there's obviously international break. That's why I've only got 3 games. But
then we roll into November. We've got Burnley, Sunderland, Spurs at home and Chelsea away. Now, for me, that November period, whether Burnley are home or away, Sunderland are home or away, that's 6 points there. It has to be, because if you want to be winning titles, you have to be beating these teams. You have to be beating all teams. You know, really, realistically, you can only lose maximum of 5 games, but you want to be winning obviously the majority of games. Now, Spurs at home, you need to be winning that. I mean, we all know the problems that they had last season. I don't believe that if you finish 17th one season with a 38 points tally, you are, unless you make some serious changes, which, albeit they've bought in Thomas Frank, and I hate to say it, he's a good manager.
That will change things.
He knows how to set the team up, and he has done historically well against Arsenal with the team he's got. And I hate to say it, but Spurs are a bigger club than Brentford. I know you
just.
So November, you need to be picking up the points.
November's an interesting one there, because I look at that, right. Away, home and away. Chelsea away, difficult, but they've got a Champions League game in between Spurs and Chelsea as well. If you're away in that one again, do you remember we had that last season when we had 4 or 5 games away? To go away to Burnley, away to Sunderland, away in the Champions League, and then away to Chelsea, that's that becomes a tough month, unless that Champions League game's a nice little one.
Yeah, well, and also the Spurs at home, that is always a fully charged up for it game. So that's always going to take a lot, and it's always full throttle. So November, you're right, could be a very, very interesting month with a lot of travelling. Then you've got December, which is jam packed with 6 fixtures. I don't believe there's any Champions League.
I think there's a Champions League game. One in there. So that's 7.
Could be
a Europa, not a Europa, a Caribou Cup, Caribou Cup game. Well, it's like the Europa, isn't it? That is now. So it could be a League Cup tie like that, which is like, if you haven't got a strong enough squad, or your squad's not strong, December, January, because Arsenal don't buy anybody in January, as we know. So you've got that squad's got to be healthy going in from Brentford to Leeds in January. You're
spot on there, Lee. And this is where last season we picked up our injuries. Don't remember. I think it was Havertz got injured.
Saka got injured in December.
Yeah, and I think Havertz got injured in January. And it's your red line in players now. Obviously, Havertz played every single game, and he covered a lot of ground. And the same as Saka. And it's only imagine having a player like Jesus in a fixture period and playing him in every game. I mean, he managed.
That's where it's going to be interesting, and that's where it's interesting, because Brentford at home, Aston Villa, Wolves at home. There's a few games there. Brighton at home. Aston Villa have got twice in December. Just noticed there, 6 and They're difficult games, but there are games where you could just say, right, if you had the proper squad, the proper players, you can go, do you know what, I'm leaving out the centre forward today, bringing in Havertz or Havertz. This is where those games are key.
Do you know what? You're spot on there, Lee. And obviously, if you look at a game like that, you could potentially, and this is what I love about this Arsenal team, is at least with our last season, we have found a way to play with the bare bones. Now, dare I say it, and I don't want to get absolutely hammered for it, but I'm going to say it anyway, is in a game like, let's say, for example, Wolves are near the bottom of the table. Don't forget they've got rid of Kuna to Man U, so he's a big factor in goal. I think they might struggle this season. Brentford, Thomas Frank's gone, depends who they replace him with. They could really struggle. Everton going to the new stadium, they could really struggle. Now, it's in those games where if, you essentially, Arteta could be like, right, yeah, starting Havertz, or we're starting Marino up top.
Hopefully not Marino, because that'd be like a disaster. But I'm looking at you've got your normal number. We've signed whoever it is who it's going to be.
And he needs to rest. He needs because he's been played, because you've played him in all the other fixtures, and he's hammered. So otherwise you risk injuring him.
For the game against Wolves at home, if you want to go like Wolves at home, if you want to say that.
And I don't.
You can leave Saka out.
I don't say that. Oh yeah, let's go back. The reason why I say that is because if you play your new number 9 in all them fixtures, what you don't want to do is then continue playing him in games that you've got another option, and then you end up injuring him and he's out for the season anyway. You need to have you need to have players that can play in a multitude of positions around the pitch.
And that December is tough. Yeah, it's tough, but then January is even tougher. So you've got to look at that and go, right. When I come into January, don't forget you've got the FA Cup coming into that. By Christ, I want us doing well in that this year. Yeah. Right. So for me, those games there, like now, you've got to say, right, hold on a minute, right. You've got Bournemouth away, which is not easy. Liverpool, Forest away, Manchester United at home, Leeds away. That is a tough month. You've got to have everybody on song. Yeah, big squad there, So I think that December, January, key months for me.
Definitely, without a doubt. And then we roll into February with an international break in February.
No, I think it's in March the break. I don't know why is that there February, because it's a short month, I suppose.
Yeah, it is. Oh yeah, of course it's a short month. So we've got Sunderland, Brentford, Spurs, and Chelsea. Spurs away, Chelsea at home. That again, that has to look like you're picking up, maximum points in those games.
Spurs and Chelsea twice, like back to back. It's a tough arse that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like Spurs away, and then you got to go. And I'll imagine in that February one, there's a Champions League game in there as well, So that's going to be.
And then 3 games in March. You've got Brighton away, Everton at home, Wolves away. Just 3 games in March.
I think now, if we've done what we should have done, going into March now on the home stretch, I think looks good.
It does, but then the thing with it is we drop points to Bournemouth. We drop points to
that's what they can't
City.
Make those.
We drop points to Newcastle, Fulham, West Ham.
Yeah, you can't make
and Palace. And the thing with the Premier League is why we love it is there isn't really any easy games. Every single team you're playing, if they're you ain't on your game, they'll put you away.
Yeah. That March like Brighton away, Everton at home, Wolves away. Yeah. You could potentially end up with 9 points, but you're right. You know what I mean? You could end up with 3 or 4, and that's a disappointment. So, And
it's funny you say with the Spurs and the Chelsea back to back. The officials from the Premier League claim that the creation of the fixture list takes up to 6 months. It's put together by French IT company Atos, who are based just outside of Paris. A wide variety of factors have been taken into account before the list is created. An itinerary of information that implicates the order of the matches is inputted into their system, which then generates the list of matches. So apparently there's quite a lot of planning and consideration. Yeah. For example, needs to take into account dates of international matches, as well as those of Champions League, Europa League and Europa Conference League clashes. It also needs to consider the scheduling of matches in the lower leagues. Okay, so also there are 3 main rules to it. So Policing capacity and geographical proximity of teams are also considered to make sure public safety resources are not spread too thin. For example, Liverpool and Everton are not allowed to play at home at the same weekend due to an intense strain on it. It would put on the police resources. The same would also apply to Manchester United, Manchester City, but the rules are relaxed when it comes to London teams due to the large number of clubs in the capital. But
Arsenal and Spurs never play on Sunday.
No. They can't because they're too close to each other,
so
and they are. Yeah, there would just be. I think we all know there'd be problems. So then we roll into May. Fulham at home, West Ham away, Burnley at home, and Palace away. You would like to think if we are in this title running, and we're either at the top, how good would it be? Just quickly, I know this is really out there, but to either. Imagine we wrapped up the title away at Man City, or at home to Newcastle. Imagine that. I know it's well far fetched. How do you put that? You know the Arsenal song, we won it at White Hart Lane. You know, we won it at Old Trafford. How do you put the Etihad in it?
That'd be great, wouldn't it? Like, you know, that I think is going to be a massive game, April the 18th now. Then, like, so probably like around it. It might be like. Could it be when semi-finals are played that day as well? So it could move.
Yeah, okay.
Could move. I'm not sure. But, but that'd be a...
If we have a look at the fixtures of Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal, because I believe at this point in the season, obviously not being started, that those are going to be... Would it be fair to say, Lee, that they're probably the three teams challenging for the title?
There's definitely two. Man City and Liverpool.
Yeah.
Arsenal at the moment, I don't think are challenging for the title.
Really?
No, I don't think we are.
Why?
Because we've not got the players that we need to challenge for the title.
Do you not think?
No. Well, we haven't got them.
Okay, look,
we didn't challenge for the title last year.
All right, let's. I'll go into this quickly then, right, Lee? So. You're the manager. You're Arteta at Arsenal, okay?
Yeah.
What team? You've got to take into consideration the team that you've got, and we're not playing FIFA. Who do you bring in? What team do you start with next season? And do you make sure that the club give you the funds for those players?
Realistic. I'm talking realistic.
Go on.
Zubimendi, I think is.
Let's start from the goalkeeper. Let's go through.
So Raya in goal.
Yep.
Timber at right back or Ben White, depending on who's the fittest. Saliba, Gabriel, Miles Lewis-Skelly.
Yep.
A midfield would be Thomas Partey. I'd be doing everything to keep him in there. If not, I would be say if he let him go, then I'm going like Declan Rice, Odegaard, Morgan Rogers.
Okay.
Would be my three in midfield. Because you've lost Thomas Partey,
so not Zubimendi.
Zubimendi coming in, but like.
Do you think? Would you put Declan Rice in the sixth then?
For that gap, for certain. Like if you've lost Partey, you know what I mean. Like I'll keep Thomas Partey, but it does look like at this moment in time we're not going to be able to do that. So we've got to do. If we lose Thomas Partey, you're losing Jorginho as well. Yeah. You have got to bring a midfield player in. You know what I mean? More than one. So Zubimendi's one.
Yeah.
You've got to bring in another.
Okay.
So like someone of more. So that's what I would do there. And my front three would be Sesko.
Okay.
On the down the middle. Saka, and a wide left player.
Who?
If I had the choice...
You've got the choice, Lee.
I've got the choice.
You can go and buy anyone you want.
Anthony Gordon.
Okay.
Would be the one that I'd go
He's
for.
Your main man, yeah?
I'd go for him because I think he's Premier proven.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we could get him, but like that's I hear the things about Rodrigo, but I will go with Anthony Gordon. Then you've got like in a game like you've got Havertz that can come on, you've got Martinelli that can come on,
Trossard that can come on.
Trossard can come on, like, you know, that gives you a lot more options.
Don't you think prizing Anthony Gordon away from Newcastle is going to be a very tough?
Yeah, you just said to me, you know what I mean, like a goat or like, you know. I think like if you're going to prize Rodrigo away from Real Madrid, it's going to be difficult. You know, the Williams one doesn't look like that's going to happen, like, you know.
Okay, so then with that team, Do you not think that team...
Then that challenges.
That challenges, yeah. I think we will make... I think Zubimendi's a done deal. Well, I've heard from a very, very reliable source that it is done.
But he ain't going to come in and you're going to have to ease him in, like, you know what I mean?
Really?
That's why I'm playing Declan Rice. Like, yeah. I think also, like, we need something different in midfield, Marty, like particularly on home games.
Okay.
But, like, if I be really honest, Thomas Partey, Declan Rice, Odegaard didn't work. It's not worked for 2 seasons at home. Well, no, it hasn't, because we've dropped.
Is that not because we haven't had the personnel up front, the correct personnel?
Well, that you could say that as well, like, but we've dropped too many points at home with that midfield.
We have, definitely. Yeah, I'm with you.
If you've got a different personnel in midfield, maybe. But I look at the other two teams at this moment in time, and I think at this moment in time, as we're sitting here now, we are third favourites, or even fourth favourites behind Newcastle.
I think you might have been spending a bit too much time with Turkish.
No, he's got to be Turkish.
He's done you. He's infiltrated you.
He's got me. No, listen, I listen.
Big up to Turkish as well, by the way.
I listen to what Turkish got to say.
Big respect.
I'm at this moment in time. Listen, for the last 2 seasons, I've gone in looking at these fixtures and everything like that, excited about us. Thinking we was going to win the title. This time I'm going around, unless we make positive signings, I don't see us challenging for the title.
Lee, I generally think that we're going to make these signings. These signings for me are not done overnight. I've heard loads of people say, "Oh well, Arsenal should have just announced it." I understand what I've heard with the Zubimendi deal. It's for Real Sociedad because they want to get their financials in for the year, so that's why he's going to be announced on the 1st of July. Listen, if these players aren't announced by the 15th of July, then I'll be worried.
Yeah, well, listen, I'll go as far as this to say, right? If the forward, if the wide player, if the midfield player, that's 3 plus a goalkeeper 4. I'm not on that plane to Singapore.
There's going to be some problems.
It's going to be problems.
So,
especially with that fixtures.
Let me just touch on that goalkeeper situation as well. Getting Kepa for £5 million.
Good deal.
Do you know what? I watched Kepa last. I love watching goalkeepers. I watched him at Bournemouth last season, and for me, he was one of the standout goalkeepers in the Premier League last season. And we've just nicked him for £5 million. When you consider Chelsea paid £73 million for him about 4-5 years ago. He's been at Chelsea, he's been at Real Madrid, and he's been at Bournemouth on loan playing first team football week in, week out, and he made some absolutely awesome saves. And this was you can see his strong will, because I remember that cup final when the Sarri tried to sub him right at the end for Willy Caballero, and he wouldn't have it, and he was like, no, I'm fine, and literally Sarri walks off down the tunnel. It was if you haven't seen it, go and watch it, because it's quite interesting that a player as literally, it's the first time I've ever seen it, and I remember listening to the pundits afterwards, and they were shocked that he just didn't
ruin him a little bit. That
it did. But then obviously Real Madrid after that picked him up, and he done all right there.
I look at it and go, right, he was going to spend 23 or prepared to spend 24 million on Garcia. Neto played 1 game for us last season,
and it weren't good.
So but at the end of it, you're looking at Neto. Now Kepa coming in, or the backup goalkeeper if it's somebody else, but it looks like it is him. It's going to be like cup games as well, and you've got to feel confident. It's not one of those signings that everybody's going to go mad about, but it's never going to be that, Mike, because it's a backup goalkeeper.
And also we need a striker in it. That's the one everyone wants to see. But get him in, Zubimendi, and I think those two go in, and then the rest follow. Then the striker comes in.
Well, the striker's got to come in before. You look at the first 3 fixtures. You cannot have the striker coming in on the last day of the window.
No.
That has got to be done, and when it's done, then I think that there'd be a little bit more excitement in the Arsenal fan base. But at this moment in time, it's not as good as
when you just touch on it. You said just recently about the players giving time to bed in. Now that is why 1st of July to the 15th of July for me is of paramount importance, getting those players in, because so they get a full pre-season. Now I believe if you're spending 50, 60, 70 million quid on a player, that player, you give them a good pre-season, get them into the club, sign them in, take them on a pre-season tour, play the Emirates Cup, gives them enough time to be relaxed with the squad, away from the pressures of everything, the Premier League, the Champions League, so that when the Premier League does start, they're bedded in and they're ready to rock and roll. And these are top elite players, so they should bed in properly. And we're not, this ain't about buying a striker so that in 2 seasons' time he's firing on all cylinders. We need to get something for now.
100%, and that's why it's key that they do this. I think, if I'll be really honest, from January, getting no one in January and not getting the striker now, I think is poor for us. It's poor. You know what I mean? We haven't bought no one. We haven't gone for a striker because we couldn't get him. We want to get him in now in the summer. All of that, like, we'll go and get him. Just go and get him. Look, but at the end of the day, like, I get it. It all takes time, but the longer it goes on, the longer is a bit of a panic. But listen, I'm with you. I won't be panicking until the day. But I'll tell you that now, if that striker is not on that plane for Singapore, I am not going to be happy.
I bet you're not.
I'm not going to be happy, because that is poor business from Arsenal then, like, you know.
Very, very poor.
So they've with the Kappa one, they were prepared to spend 20 odd minutes, so they've saved themselves 19 minutes and get this other deal done. Listen, I get it takes time and everything like that, but I think now, you know, if Arsenal are going to be pushing for the title next season, this January transfer window is massive, and it's also where you can't be like, oh, if we'd have got this somewhere, it's got to be nigh on perfect. Yeah. We haven't. There's no more. I know, like saying about Turkish, as Turkish says, you're 6 years into it now. You should know what you're going to get, and at 6 years in, the plan should be like top class. And one thing I will say is, if you're getting the best players, they take time.
They do. They don't just. It's not just go and pick them off the supermarket shelf. Yep, I'll have him. Here you go. Here's the money. It's done. It doesn't work like that. And there are. You don't want to go and spend. You've seen it with Liverpool now. They went and bought Darwin Núñez. Look how that's worked out. Hasn't worked out. There's nothing worse. Look at how Kepa didn't work out for Chelsea. Yeah. When you're spending big amounts of money, and that's one thing I do like about Arsenal, I do respect, is when you're spending. Okay, it didn't work out for Pepe so much, even though some of his metrics were good, and he was good and he did perform. I just think the place the team was in, but when you're spending that sort of money, it's got to be a right fit, and it's not just you can't just ban that money around front, because Manchester United have done that, and look what's happened.
Oh, and that's what we've got to do. We spent 65 million on Kai Havertz. You know what I mean? I think he's a good player, but what's his best position? No one knows.
Well, the thing is, you do have to look at, if he didn't get injured last season. If he didn't get injured,
you don't know, but he's not. He's not.
It didn't happen, and
he's not a. And listen, from January to May in the season before, he was outstanding for us, like, you know. But at the end of the day, he's not prolific. He's not what I would say
an out-and-out number nine.
Number nine. Like, listen, to have an out-and-out number 9 and him backing up or even playing games when the system needs to be changed and all that isn't a bad thing. But solely relying on Kai Havertz isn't going to get you over the line. And the fact of the matter is that all those guys in the team at the moment haven't got us over the line for 3 years. So something's got to change for us to get over the line, and I think it is a number 9. I heard Jack Wilshere saying about it's not the be and end all. I get it's not the be and end all, but it makes a difference, and the difference is, can it get us over the top?
Of course. So when Robbie came to me about this Invincible podcast and gave me the opportunity to host it, Lee, I wanted to add a little segment in about the Invincibles.
Oh, all right, cool.
If you don't mind. So I'm going to ask you a few questions around the Invincibles. So what are your personal favourite memories of the 03-04 season, apart from going unbeaten?
Oh, great question. Like, I remember there's a couple of real poignant moments in it. Like, I remember coming out of the game against Portsmouth. Do you remember we drew 1-1?
Yes.
Me and my dad, play like that, we ain't going to win nothing. And do you imagine there would have been a meltdown about that game there, because we was absolutely poor in that game.
Terrible.
Robert Perez did dive for the penalty, otherwise we'd have lost.
He got the penalty and we drew the game.
That would have been it, So I've got mixed emotions about the whole scenario of the Invincibles, because I do believe, I don't know if anybody else believes that, but we underachieved that season. And I mean that by, we went to we had that 3 game span where I lost a lot of respect for Arsene Wenger in the semi-final when he played. Man United played their full team and we played a weakened team. Goes down 1-0, loses that game. Skull scores a goal, we lose that game. And even with that weakened team, there was still not a lot in it. But if we'd have played a better team, we'd have got to the cup final.
Yeah.
Then we go to Chelsea home after we should have maybe done the job at Stamford Bridge. We've got 1-1 draw, go back there. We lose that game. And I've got a feeling we played on the Good Friday on that Liverpool game. It was a Good Friday. So we're 2-1 down.
Yeah.
It's horrendous. It's horrendous. But what a second half. So I think that has to go down as an unbelievable game.
Okay. What about your favourite games?
Favourite games
Or favourite game? Favourite 3 games in that season.
3 games in that season. The Liverpool home and away.
Okay.
Do you remember when Robert Perez gets the goal?
Yes. Yes.
Is there Chelsea away?
Yeah.
When Vieira.
Yeah.
Gives away the goal in the first minute, and then so that would be up there. The Tottenham game, not for me.
Okay.
Because we was 2-0 up in that game.
I know, and kind of threw it away a little bit. And they celebrated
too.
Yeah.
But I always felt at the end of the day, it would have been a little bit more special if we'd have won that game. But even though we drew it there, so they were probably the go. I think the Liverpool away game. Do you remember that? I think we was. Might have even been 1-0 down in that game, and Robert Perez scored an absolute screamer of a goal. I think Edu might have scored that day, I can't remember. But that would be... And I have to say, the Leicester game, the last game of the season,
yeah,
I'd have to say that was a great game as well, so...
Okay, so what about behind-the-scenes vibes, like stuff behind the scenes, not on the football pitch games, stuff that... Obviously, you're an Arsenal man. You've been to the games, been in and around it. What do you like memories away from the games, but to do with the games?
What in Invincible? Then,
yes.
Do you know what? It's just like one of the greatest things for me was sharing that with my dad. You know what I mean? Like at the time, I'll tell you a very, very poignant story, which. I've took to every game since.
Okay.
Right. We lost to Leeds the year before at Highbury to lose the league. And I felt we should have won the league that year. Leeds away and, anyway. Was that season? We lost to Leeds at home.
Yep.
It was 99 we lost to Leeds away. They've done us a couple of times, but we lost at home. So we're then playing the cup final against Southampton the next week at Cardiff.
Yeah,
goes down with Dad. It's the last ever cup final I went with my dad. Win it 1-0. Weren't the greatest game. Remember, it was under the roof and everything like that. Robert Perez scored, win 1-0. We're going on the coach on the way back home, and I said to my dad, yeah, you know what I mean, and really celebrate, you know what I mean, not really into it, you know what I mean. And my dad turned around to me and said, "Don't ever think that, because you never know."
Yeah.
When your next trophy's coming, so you enjoy it
enjoy it like it's your last.
Enjoy it like it's your last. Never think that, right? But I weren't at it. But obviously, then the next year we obviously go into Invincible, wins the league, and then the following season we win the FA Cup back against Man United, and then obviously 2006 we don't win the Champions League, and then we go on this run where we don't win trophies, and every year that we didn't win a trophy, my dad used to. So when we eventually beat Hull and we beat Aston Villa and we beat Chelsea, I have enjoyed those cup finals,
definitely
wins. On the back of what my dad said.
Yeah, spot on. Do you know what? And it brings me to this last season, and one thing that, through the disappointment of obviously our season, I like Crystal Palace. They're my stepfather, he's got a season ticket there. And obviously Crystal Palace fans, he's 73 years old. He's never, ever seen Crystal Palace win a trophy.
Unbelievable.
Okay. And then my mum books a holiday when the FA Cup final's on. He's a season ticket holder. He goes to all the games. Books a holiday when the FA Cup final's on, well in advance. And the poor guy misses out on the cup final where Palace go and beat Man City.
He didn't go on holiday, did he?
He went on holiday with my mum. I mean, listen, one thing I know, he loves my mum to bits. he obviously loves her more than football. But this guy's been a season ticket holder since the age of 15. And it's just like, wow. And I'll tell you what, the scenes at Wembley were unbelievable. Yeah. I watched that on TV up full whack, and do you know what? My hairs were standing up on my... That for me is FA Cup stories. That's what football's about right there. And that... Seeing that was a consolation in Arsenal, because what it meant to those Palace fans, they were so grateful. They to win that FA Cup, they loved it. They were over the moon, and fair play to them, big respect to them, and to go and beat City 1-0 convincingly. They got their goal, they shut up shop. They got lucky with a couple of decisions, but they won it.
Since January, Palace were fantastic, by the way.
Brilliant. Yeah, do you know what? Eze Mateta, when he went to the club, Palace fans weren't too happy with him. No, but he's an absolute beast.
He's done. Listen, I like to see teams like Crystal Palace. If Arsenal couldn't win it, Crystal Palace or Fulham or someone like that win it, you want to see the underdog come through. But I tell you, watching Crystal Palace winning that cup, I want to get back to Wembley. I don't want to this like going out early like we have done the last 3 or 4 years. That was a poor game against Man United last season. January last season was a real kick in the teeth for me.
And it's freezing cold now.
Freezing cold, everything like that. And going
Christmas is finished. It's that point in the year where you look to football for some solace and some, please just give me something I need here.
Mark, going into that, we had everything going for us. We
did. And a lot of it sort of crumbled away.
Yeah, we had the semi-finals. We went out of that. We went out to Man United. We didn't buy anybody in January. It was a real... kick in the teeth for us.
So then just quickly back to the Invincibles. How do the Invincibles stack up against Pep City?
As I said, there's a little bit of disappointment in where we're at, because I think that we should have gone on and done that team should have dominated the whole of everything. We should have gone on and won the Champions League, you know what I mean? Chelsea got knocked out of Monaco next one. We should have beaten them there. The FA Cup was there for us as well. I think to go through with the unbeaten and all that is something there. If you tell me what's better to win, like the Invincibles or a treble, I'm going for a treble. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that.
Man United and Man City's trebles are
they were phenomenal.
You can't beat winning trophies. You know what I mean? But what we've done is unique. It's something that was never ever thought could be done.
Yep.
But we've done it.
Okay.
So I think, you know what I mean, like, we should embrace it a lot more than but at the end of the day, the treble's probably bigger.
So Lee, question: your all-time football team, right? Who are you putting in it? All-time, anyone, anywhere, all-time team. Random question.
What, Arsenal or
anyone?
What do you mean? I don't know. Like,
you've got a team. You can pick any player from any era, any time, all around the world. Put into a team. I'm putting you on the spot here, Lee. Yeah, because I know you know your football.
Listen, if it would be in like the Premier League or whatever, like, definitely Ronaldo would get into it.
Yep.
Thierry Henry would get into it from Arsenal, like, you know what I mean. Patrick Vieira would get into it. Maradona, he's the best player that I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Diego Maradona, with the way football is now, because he never got protected, by the way, like,
No, he didn't. He got
if he was, you're not allowed to tackle nowadays, like, he would just run them right. But I'll tell you a player that was a big favourite of mine was a player called. I had a couple of real players. Histrov Stoichkov. Do you remember him?
Yeah, Stoichkov.
For Barcelona. What a player he was, left foot.
Yeah,
would definitely
unbelievable,
unbelievable player, like, And if I'm going to say a player which people wouldn't believe, I think he changed football over in this country, and he's a Man United player. Eric Cantona was, what I mean, like, what a player.
Do you know another player as well? The other night I watched that Soccer Aid, that Soccer Aid game. I don't know if you watched it.
Yeah, well, little bits of it.
Yeah, what?
Little bits of it.
Yeah, so the England side were 3-0 down. and then the West of the World goalkeeper, Nicky Byrne, ex-Westlife member, made a fantastic double save. They brought on Tevez, right? And then Tevez went and scored 4 goals.
Unreal.
And he's been retired for a few years. And he jinked it past him. Just completely changed the game. I was like, whoa.
Unbelievable
The
player.
centre of gravity that he had and how he still moves, and he's still double fit. And I was like, wow. It was interesting. It was,
Yeah, like, you know, that would be, for me, like, you know, Roberto Carlos would definitely be the left back, or even like Ashley Cole's the nearest thing to him.
Yeah.
If I'd be honest, like, you know, like Zico, do you remember him?
Yes.
Like, do you know what I mean? What a player he was, like, you know. And I'll tell you what, people don't realise, you know, a lot of the younger people will know Michel Platini through the FIFA things and all that. You know, in the 80s, what a player he was.
Yeah.
You know, Platini, like, I think was as good as Zidane. Zidane was unbelievable.
They're real football men. I mean, what you think what Platini is, you know, there's a lot to his career. Fantastic.
I always like a player with a little bit of devil in them.
Yeah, of course. You need that bit of bite. Bergkamp had that.
Yeah,
you know, that bit of needle, elbow you, tread on you.
We'd have that little bit, like, as I say, Cantona.
He'd leave it on you.
Steven Gerrard would be up there as midfield players. Had a little bit of thing about him. So I've always sort of liked those. But we've been blessed with Arsenal. I think we've got what I call with the Invincibles, Vieira, Henry, Pires, generally world-class footballers.
So, we're going to start wrapping it up, Lee. Final thoughts.
What, for this season?
Final thoughts for today, this season, fixtures. What are you going to leave out there for everyone watching?
I am at this moment in time not buzzing. I'm not.
Really?
I'm not looking forward to the season. No, because I've been disappointed. Like, Arsenal have knocked me.
Yeah.
You know, like I still look at the Champions League. You know what I mean? We went into it without a forward, without the proper tools, and we got to the semi-finals. A little bit of disappointment of that. I believe Arsenal were pushing us for the title 2 years ago, and I was very, very proud. Last season was a complete nightmare.
Okay.
I thought it was a tough watch. I didn't enjoy it. I'm going to be real. I didn't enjoy watching Arsenal last season. Okay. I thought it was boring.
I did at times.
It was predictable. Couple of games here and there, but not to the value of the season ticket and everything that we pay and all that. I thought Arsenal were disappointed last season. This season, at this moment in time, unless they buy some real big players and excite us, I think we're going to go down the same route, and that's what worries me.
So you heard it here first, Arsenal. Go and buy the players.
Spend.
Otherwise, you're going to have this man knocking at your front door, kicking it down. Get the money out. So
they've got to spend, and if they do, you know, listen. If Arsenal were to say, let's just say, for instance, Mike, they went and spent money on Sesko, they went and spent money on Zubimendi, and they got a wide player, right, and they didn't win it, I wouldn't be going absolutely mad about it, because I would, in my back of my head, and go, do you know what?
We had a go.
We've had a go.
We've got the right players.
Didn't
work out.
There's a better team out there than us. Then that's fair enough. Like, but if they don't do nothing, and they end up going like, I'm going to seriously have a meltdown, and that's what I don't want. Like, you know, I'm not on this page of you've got to win things all the time, because we all know it's very, very difficult. But he's put himself in a position over the last 3 years that we've now got to win something. There's a lot of pressure on Arsenal. He needs the right tools, and if he's not got the right tools, he's never going to do it. So, and I do think if he had the right tools, he will win the title.
Spot on, Lee. So, look, thank you very much, Lee.
I enjoyed that.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you for looking after me.
No, well done. Well done today, like, you know.
You say the nicest things, well, Lee. So, if you want to follow Lee, it's Lee Judges TV. Please follow him on his socials, Lee Mark Judges, on Instagram as well. Some fantastic content on there. And please subscribe. Please leave comments. Please be nice. This is my debut. Please
be nice in the comments. Be nice in the comments.
Look, say what you got to say. If you don't like me, you know, and I've been rubbish, it is what it is. But look, thank you very much for having me. I may or may not be back in any capacity next week. That is down to the main man. Big up Don Robbie and big up Cecil. Thank you very much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. The big topic is, can Arsenal go on and win the league next season? Or could they go on and be invincible? Who knows? I've been Marty. I've been with Lee. This has been fantastic. The Invincibles podcast. Thanks for watching. I will see you soon on AFTV.